and welcome to another episode of Never Caught Offside with your host, Mr. Voltaire, here with these two guys, special guys for a special reason. We've got my big bro here from the left. Ugo, how are you, brother?
Yeah, good, thanks.
I don't know why I've asked whether you're okay. I know you're okay. You're actually downstairs. I don't know why I keep doing this. But yes, people, we live in the same house here. This is where we're recording. And Mike, how are you, man?
Yeah, good man. Good.
Yeah, stop crying. Yeah, you all right?
Yeah, no, it's all good,
You're not
man.
teary-eyed.
After Amram's speech, I'm pumped up, man. So don't worry.
Isn't
It's all
this
good.
like shouldn't you be in like the third stage of grief or something? Like, shouldn't there be something like that? I don't know.
Nah, I
Just
don't know what you call the stage now. I've gone past the first stage. I'm like seventh stage, bro.
hope. You're in stage of hope. That's where you are, innit? Yeah, it's just hope.
Yeah, I'm in the stage of hope.
That's because that's all you've got. All you've got is hope. Okay, cool. Well, welcome, guys. Thank you. It is a small little collection today. There's only three of us. With it being the bank holiday, people are, either nursing hangovers or have other commitments which have ran into the week. But we couldn't sit still. We had to give you guys an episode. So here we are today. There is a lot to unpack. But before we do that, I just want to just say a little, I don't even know how to even put this, but in times of celebration, unfortunately, we were met with tragedy during what should have been glorious, um, you know, praise and celebration for Liverpool winning the title. But one individual has decided to put a downer on this occasion and marked it with some tragic actions. And I don't know if you've seen the reports, but if you haven't, I'm not going to go into too much detail. You can go and read it. You can go and Google it. It's all over the news. But a man who was in his car decided to drive during the parade where streets were full of people. Um, Obviously, him driving his car had upset some people, which a reaction started, and before you know it, he was driving through the streets and running over people. It's not clear how many casualties there have been, but I think I've seen things where no one has really come out and said anybody's passed away, but I think as news is filtered through, some people have tragically passed away. Even news of a small child had already passed away. So my prayers go out to friends, family, and everybody who was there and everybody connected with not just with Liverpool but the whole football community, because no one is going to condone any death or acts of violence towards anybody, especially when you're out supposed to be enjoying life. Okay, so we condone a lot of things, and that is something that should never happen. So my prayers go out to the family, friends, and all supporters worldwide. Right, for business now. Now, last week, Wednesday, massive game, the Europa League final, with two big shots, with two heavyweights of English football, went toe to toe. Now, this is supposed to be a really big game, but I think everybody knew that this game was going to be terrible. Everybody knew because both teams have come in to this competition in their respective leagues, poor form, but in European competition, great form. We don't know why. Maybe because the people you played are terrible, or it's just saving themselves for European glory. I don't know what it is. But you know what? It was always on paper, you see Manchester United versus Tottenham, you think, yo, these are two juggernauts of football. But no, it was almost like two bums fighting in the car park of Asda. I don't know what was going on. It was like, when you watch a heavyweight match and they have that one match where it's like two boxers who have seen better days just go at it. Just maybe one payday, that they're trying to, or maybe one maybe it's the only shot at the big time, and this is it. It's like you win this fight, and you may have the chance to challenge for the world title. That's what it was, because the loser was going to be decimated. The loser was going to be ridiculed. The loser was going to be at the end of a severe cooking by the media, by fans, by everyone. So it was like, who was it going to be? Was it going to be Tottenham or Manchester United? Fortunately for me, it was Manchester United. Listen, Mike, I love you. You're a nice guy, but Manchester United, I hate them. I hate them with passion. So I'm happy. I'm really happy that you lost, and I want to see the demise of Manchester United. I want to see them crushed. I want to see I want to be like Thanos, yeah, and this click, and Man United is disappear. You know what? I've got you as relegation candidates next season, but anyway, that's another story for another day. So Tottenham end up being victorious. So I'm gonna let Tottenham start because I'm gonna give them the platform because obviously they are the worthy winners of the Europa. The best out of a bad bunch, let's just say. So over to you, Ugo. How did you feel winning the title?
I think it's elation, relief, which are the words that I would use.
Feels like a bit of an anticlimax, man. Where's the oomph? What's happening to you, man? You should be, yeah. What? Come on. Where's the chest? You should be like, yeah. Okay, I don't want to
Yeah, no,
shout.
don't get me wrong.
There you go. That's it. Bit of bass.
Happy that we won, but I have to give my emotions as to what I was feeling during the game, and it was utter nerves. So I wasn't really too confident leading into the game for one reason or another, and yeah, it was never going to be that exciting in terms of the two teams, fighting against each other. It was never going to be a classic. I knew that, but I just wanted us to win. I don't care how. I don't care if it came off someone's chest, ears, derriere.
Caps.
Yeah, I didn't care. As long as we won the game and were lifting the trophy at the end, that's all. That's all that matters. So yeah, United were going into that game as I think the favourites. We were declared as the underdogs. But yeah, we had a job to do. I thought that we wanted it more. We needed it more because we've been starved of success for the last 17 years, and in Europe 41 years. So it was overdue. But yeah, that 7 minutes into extra time, that or added time I should say, that yeah, that was horrible. But we got there in the end. We crossed the line and we done it. So yeah, it's been a crazy couple of days, but a joyous one.
Now that the dust has kind of settled, and you've earned your place now in the Champions League, do you feel like Tottenham actually deserve that place in the Champions League?
Nope. Well, if you go by our league form, then no. But obviously, going through what we did in Europa, yes, it hasn't been the best Europa due to the teams that played, but you can only play the teams that are in front of you. Uh, And we did our job. We did what we had to do. Won the competition, and with the rules, competition that you win, a European competition, takes you into the Champions League. So we'll take it. If you said to us at the beginning of the season, would you um, want to finish bottom of the table but still win a cup? Most fans would have bitten your hand off. So can't complain too much.
So
But
let
now that we're in the top table for next season, we can't be going in there with that same kind of form. Otherwise, we're going to get ripped apart. So there's a proper surgery that needs to be done on the team before then. So we just have to see how pre-season turns out moving forward.
Now, let's just say this for instance, yeah, you wouldn't say that Tottenham have a team or have the potential to win the Champions League. Would you say that's correct?
Hell no, yeah, that's
Okay,
correct.
cool.
We ain't gonna win it.
So, what would you? So in a sense, what would you say? Would you replace maybe like what Forest have got, being seventh, taking Conference League, or being 17th, 22 losses but getting to the Champions League?
I feel with the players that we have and the form that we've been in, Champions League, I think, is just above us at the moment. I would have been happy just to have qualified for Europa again and just maybe do it. If we, I know it's probably being pessimistic, but just being a bit of a Sevilla for just like a season or two, just playing in Europe, collecting a couple of cups if you can, and just build a winning mentality, build a good squad, and then from there you can then see if you can be a force to be reckoned with in the Champions League.
Okay.
So yeah, I reckon maybe another season or two in Europa, just build that confidence, build the team up, and then you just keep scaling. So I think now we've kind of like jumped that, and we're back into the Champions League. But yeah, at the moment we just don't have the squad that can do anything in it. So again, we have to strengthen in the areas that we're weak in. Otherwise, we're going to get battered.
So, Mike, what do you feel about the game? Do you feel best team won, or this was an opportunity that escaped Manchester United?
Yeah, I think watching the game, I actually went into it feeling that Tottenham were going to win. I just had this feeling that Tottenham were going to win, and I was like, no, I can't be feeling like this. And then watching Man United play, I just feel like as Hugo said, Spurs wanted it more, and I could see that with them playing. I feel like we had more chances. I think we had more possession, more chances, but I think we were both unlucky, and the players just compared to the way we played against Villa. I think if we played Spurs in the final the way we played against Villa this past weekend, I think we could have won that game.
That's something we're definitely going to come back to.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think the attitude, I think the mentality was what let us down in that game. And obviously, it's hard because if you've not got a striker, who can put away those goals, it makes it so much harder. So I think, yeah, a combination of mentality. I think the mentality was the big thing for us. Just let us down. But I think I look at it as a blessing as well because with Man United needing to rebuild and not being out of and now being out of Europe, we can now focus on rebuilding and get more time to do that in the league and focus on top six.
But do
So
you feel? But
yeah,
do you feel that word there, rebuild, is now overplayed with Man United? Like how many times you keep having to rebuild? Like you saw the game. You
mm.
saw you got that result. Would Is there anything different you would have done in terms of personnel? Do you feel that Amarin picked the strongest squad available? Was there issues there? Because rebuild, but you've been spending money like no man's business. Didn't you feel shouldn't that team be enough to one win Europa? And is it enough to qualify for a Champions League in a sense, like if the Europa wasn't there and on your leave form, do you feel that team is capable? Because you ended up being 15th. Is that team really in 15th, or are they higher, or are they lower? Because when you think of lower, you think of relegation. If you're thinking higher, then it means that you should be above the Brightons and the Brentfords and the Fulhams, and you should be near the Aston Villas also. What do you feel on that?
No, I feel like 15th is deserved. I think we just haven't got the right players, and I'm sure we'll touch on this later on. But I think Man United need to they need to access a set number of players, and they need to start from scratch, and they need to they need to bring in a few players in different positions. I think, yeah, technically he got it wrong in the final. I think he could have put on Garnacho and Ugarte and trying to think who else. But yeah, I think he could have brought those players on sooner because as soon as Garnacho came on, he was just running at Spurs defenders, and I think that's what's won it for Spurs is their defence was good on the night. So yeah, they obviously deserve to win. I think he's every manager's going to make key decisions and stuff like that, but yeah, I know I've got faith, man. I've got faith in this guy. I think he's going to do well.
Well, your manager came out after the Aston Villa game, which we'll talk about later, and made an
Yeah.
apology that the season
Mm.
wasn't great. Would
Yeah.
his message been different if he had won the Europa League final?
Wait, before you answer, that was a bit. I don't know. It was kind of like a what's his name? The whole what's his name again?
What Scott was it?
The whole city
Brown? What was his name?
yeah, what's his name? Yeah, something Brown.
Phil
When he
Brown.
was Phil Brown, that's it. When he was scolding the players and he sat them down and he was pointing the fingers. Yeah, it felt kind of like that moment sort of thing. Like, I thought maybe he was gonna like publicly flog each player in front of the whole crowd. Some players, I don't know whether some players felt embarrassed with that kind of uh, declaration from Amarim. Some players were a bit, they were smirking as well. So I don't
Basically,
know. I just found when he did that just a bit weird. But
Yeah, it's almost like he basically said the team's rubbish, and we know we're rubbish, and we apologize for being rubbish. But
basically.
yeah, but going back to answering the question, do you feel that message would have been different if you won Europa? Would it be, you know, because in a sense you kind of probably papering over the cracks.
Um, no, I don't think so. Because even if we did win Europa, I think we've had a terrible season.
Hmm.
Yeah, we would have made Champions League, but I don't think we deserve to be in Champions League, and I don't think we'd perform well in Champions League. We'd maybe get past the group stages if we were lucky, but that's about it. So,
No, there's no group stages in the Champions League, my boy.
sorry, not group
The old
stages.
format,
Yeah,
isn't
sorry,
it?
not group stages, but make it to the qualifying the next round.
Probably been like the
Um,
bottom half of the table, and then
yeah,
there's no
so
exit to the Europa. It's no more.
yes, so yeah, next round. Sorry, that's what I meant. But I think what he did was the right thing to do. He's always been honest in his interviews. He's always said, look, like, I think the first few games he said, yeah, this is the worst Man United team in history. Probably not the right thing to say in that moment, but he knows deep down that the players that he has, most of those players aren't right for the system and right for what he wants to do. And if you take it back to when he was at Sporting Lisbon, he came in and he literally just like got rid of 13 players, and he brought in a mixture of experienced youth and people on free transfers as well. So, and then in that first season, he won the league. And I know people say the Portuguese league is probably easier than the Premier League, but he's got the right mentality. He wants to kind of get rid of the dead wood as such, and then make those changes. So,
But it's almost like, as you said, he came in and after a couple of games he said, yeah, this team is not all that and it needs work. It's almost like going into a shop, picking up a tin of beans which is expired, going to the shopkeeper looks and says, you know this is expired, right? And he says, yeah, I know. Comes back a week later and he says, hey, how are you? And he goes, oh, I've been sick. What was it? It was the beans. It's like he knew he was going to be sick, yet he still went and ate the beans. That's what it's almost like. It's like he prepared. It's like he prepared himself. It's like, listen, these are rubbish at the start. Come to the end, he's like, I told you these guys were rubbish, but I'm sure we're gonna be better next time. So I don't
I
know.
see, I see what you're saying, but you have to realize that he came in November. He had no choice. He couldn't wait until the end of the season with Sporting. He was given an ultimatum by the ownership to say you either come now or you don't get the position. So he had no choice.
He was forced
So
into it, like an arranged marriage.
yeah, and then he has to work. He has to work with the players that he doesn't want to work with and don't fit his system. And yeah, you could argue he's stubborn to change that system, but that's the system he wants to play with. And I can argue why did we play so well? Again, we dominated Aston Villa. Like objectively, you look at the stats. Even when Martinez, before he got sent off, and they're a top six side. Playing in Champions League, beat PSG in one of their legs. So we're fully capable of doing it. It's just I think he needs the right players to be able to do it.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll get into the Manchester
Mm.
United and Aston Villa game, but I'd like to say a welcome to Miguelito, who joins us. Thank you, my friend. You are back. You've been on a little trip with the missus. How was it?
All good, all good. Italy has plenty to offer. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go to San Siro, but nonetheless kept up with the football while I was away.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad that you're able to join us. So I think what you've probably missed is us talking about the Manchester United and Spurs Europa League final. Okay, I know you had a little glance at that, or did you have enough time to watch any football while you were away on your trip?
Yeah, kept up with most of the football. I think what was the first match? Newcastle, Chelsea, Newcastle. That was quite the match. Jackson getting sent off, suspended for several games. That was not a great game to watch, but nonetheless, we bounced back and we got Champions League now, so that's the most important thing.
We'll talk about that, so don't worry about that, Miguel. We'll get back to you with the whole Chelsea, and we'll just let you have that because I know you've been celebrating your little win there. All right. So, sticking with the Manchester United, your game against Villa. Now, What annoys me is that you have been terrible the whole season, went and lost the Europa League final, tail in between your legs, being mocked by everybody, yet you come and spoil Aston Villa's party. Aston Villa were close to getting Champions League football, but you didn't read the script and you went and beat them 2-0. You went and scored 2 goals. 2 goals which we haven't seen United do in a while in the league. In the Europa League, you're scoring goals for fun. For fun, as in being 4-2 down at Lyon and scoring 4 goals, destroying Bilbao in their own home. Yet in the league, you haven't done much. And not even 2 games back-to-back wins, yet you decide for no reason whatsoever, just to be difficult, you went and scumbagged Aston Villa. Talk to me about the big controversial moment where Villa actually scored a legit goal, but it was ruled off by the ref, who did he claim it as a foul, as he thought that the player had actually kicked the ball out of the keeper's hands, when in fact, looking at the replay, the ball was never really fully in control of the goalkeeper, which to me makes no sense. When the ball comes at you like that, how you not got hands on the ball? What is wrong with United keepers? Like, your first choice keeper is trash. Your second choice keeper is trash. What's going on? What is going on?
In his defense, it was raining that day, so.
Oh my days. Okay, cool. It was raining that day. All right, go on.
But yeah, I agree. I think regardless of how you look at it, and regardless of Martinez being sent off, we deserve that win, man. We dominated possession. We had the most chances, the most shots on target, off target. So I think overall we deserve to win. And yeah, I agree. It should have been a goal. I think the referee got it wrong. So it is controversial. I think they should have been given a goal. And perhaps you could argue that had they have been given that goal, it would have changed the game. And perhaps we could have maybe got a draw if we were lucky. But yeah, so that's my thoughts.
Because at that point, it would have been 1-0, and they had all 11 men on the pitch at that time, didn't they? Is that correct? 'Cause I didn't watch the game. I was fully focused on my team. It was they had it was yeah it was they had all 11 all 11 players on the pitch. If they had scored, then yeah, it could have changed things. Maybe we could have got a draw, but we don't know. I think, well, looking at it and from listening to some of the reports that came out, the rules were kind of followed. Because the referee blew the whistle before the ball went to the back of the net, VAR can't get involved. But should that change? Should that rule be changed? If there is a clear and obvious mistake, regardless of when the ref blows the whistle, when play does finally stop, shouldn't that be reviewed? What do you think about that? Anyone? What do you reckon?
I think it's a bit of a case of a double-edged sword because it's just one of those situations where it's unfortunate for Aston Villa, and I'm saying this as a Chelsea fan, where potentially if results had gone a different way, we could have been left outside the Champions League spots. But we've seen VAR get involved in a lot of situations, and it takes a lot from the game of football, where you're there left waiting several minutes while decisions are being made, and you can't win either way. Some people will argue that yes, VAR should get involved in every little kind of split decision, but then on the other side of things, you're going to be like, if you do, you're kind of taking a bit of what momentum of the game. So it's a tough one. I think that decision, in addition to what happened with Nottingham Forest with Taiwo Awoniyi when he got injured, when it was already offside, I think it's just one of those decisions where I think our officiating isn't on par with like how big the league is. Like the Premier League is the biggest league in the world, but we seem to have the worst officiating by far.
And Hugo, what do you feel about that as well? Are you sharing the same view on that? About the goal being disallowed? Was it, with everything moving so fast, the referees have to make, that second, split second decisions. Was that clear from when you saw it from open play?
It's a tough one. When you're seeing it live, it probably looks like the goalkeeper had control of the ball, but obviously when you look at the replays, it didn't. So the goal should have stood. So maybe you can understand as to why the referee blew his whistle to begin with. I couldn't tell how far the referee was, so maybe he had a better view than what people could see from watching on their TV sets. But I just think that even if he did blow his whistle early, it shouldn't always be the final decision. So what's the point of having VAR if the referee blows his whistle beforehand? Then that's the final decision given in regards to whether it's a goal or not. I think regardless of whether he blows his whistle, VAR should still have an input. Otherwise, what's the point of having it in the first place? I'm sure a referee, all referees make mistakes, but can't VAR overrule their mistake and then award the goal or what have you? So yeah, I think it's a bit harsh. The goal should have stood. VAR should have gotten involved. Maybe they might look at that. Maybe there might be a slight tweak to the rules for next season. I don't know, but the damage is done. So yeah, I think the referee was quick to blow his whistle, and I still think VAR should have intervened. So yeah, I think there needs to be a tweak again with the rules. It's not 100%, you know, um, foolproof yet.
I hear you on that. I don't think that there is a need of a tweak. I think it's more of a case of this was just a human mistake, but I thought a mistake that
Yeah, but there needs to be a tweak because the rules are if the referee has blown his whistle, then that's the final say. VAR can't get involved.
Mhm.
So if the referee has blown his whistle early, but you can see from the replay that he's actually made a mistake, then VAR should get involved and overturn it.
but that's looking at the replay. Who's looking at the replay during the play? Like the referee went
Well,
with
that's why
what
you
he
revert to
saw.
the monitor, isn't it?
Yeah, but on those type of things, it's like offside, yes. Awarded a goal, I get it to that extent. But where he felt that, and unless we saw a replay, nobody saw that ball wasn't in the keeper's hand because we don't have that sight. Referee, as I said, is on the pitch. He's got a split decision to make, and I don't blame him for making that mistake. But again, the argument is when the ball went in, that's when they should have taken a look at the replay. But at that time, ref blew the whistle, and he made his choice, and it was just a mistake. So I feel like it is. I think what should happen is that the same happens with the offside. The players offside, you let them play on. Then once the ball is out of play, as in a goal was scored or the ball goes out for a goal kick or throw in, that's when they will say yes, it is offside. Let the play continue, and that's where it should stand. Let the play continue. Goal goes in, then check it. Then you can check, oh, was the ball in the hands of the keeper? Yes, no. Cool. It was just a plain human mistake. So I don't think any rule changes will be there. It's just a case of maybe just letting the game just play on and then check in afterwards like it would with the offside rule. But I hear what you're saying with that. There can be tweaks, but it should just treat it as any other goal. They'll always review the goal, even when it looks legit, unless it's blatantly obvious that it's in, like a 25-yard strike going top corner and there's like 10 players in front of the ball, then yeah, you can't, but even then sometimes though people have a look, they'll be like whether the keeper had the sight obstructed or so forth. But cool, but I get it with that. But go
But
on.
then you got Aston Villa now making a complaint saying that they should have a more experienced referee should have been in charge of that
That's
game.
pointless.
So I don't know whether maybe they're saying a more experienced referee could have seen that incident and made a
Or maybe
better
let them play
judgment.
on.
So then I don't know whether it goes to now having to retrain referees, maybe do an eyesight, maybe get new sponsors with Specsavers for next season. I don't know.
Could you
So,
imagine the games being played with referees wearing glasses? You'd be like, "What's going on?" Like, it would be crazy. But complaining and lodging all these complaints, what are they really going to do? It happened to Liverpool against you guys, against Tottenham, where Luis Diaz scored, a literal goal, and then what happened? We got an apology. Apology isn't 3 points. Apology isn't gonna push at the table. Apology, and that's it. So complaints to me is like you just bring into light the incompetencies and how it's the refereeing is not consistent on the level that it should be. That's all it's going to do. But we're humans. There are going to be mistakes. Unfortunately, this is a business where big mistakes will cost, and a big mistake that has cost Aston Villa a place in the Champions League and also 100 million. But at the same time, you could say if Villa had won their previous 5, 6 games, they wouldn't be in this position. So it works hand in hand again. But again, it's the last game of the season. There's lots of pressure. I know you had pressure, Miguel. You had squeaky bum time. So you had to ensure your victory because if either yourself or Forest had won, you would have got Champions League. So now that you've filled the spot, how do you feel?
I think coming into these last few games, the fixtures definitely were like we were up against it. Like a lot of pundits, everyone pretty much that watched football was predicting that we weren't going to get there. That people at Forest was much higher up the table. They had a bit more of a buffer. Newcastle coming into a good run of form, so it was looking a bit dire. But I think it was like a coming of age for the youngest Premier League squad. Um, where this last game, going forward, we weren't necessarily like clinical, but it was like a Chelsea of old where we got that one goal and then there was that desire, that hunger to just defend and play for each other. And look, I'll give credit where it's due. Players like Sanchez, like he's had a torrid season, but these last 5, 6 games, it's like he's become a different man. God knows what he's been doing in the background, but I don't think he's the one for us, but I'm just happy that he managed to find his goalkeeping gloves in the end after a couple of years of causing me anxiety.
I think it caused many Chelsea fans anxiety. But you had Colwill scoring the winner. I don't think he's used to scoring. So obviously that was great that one of your own got the winning goal. So now that you've managed to claim the last spot in Champions League, what does that mean for your team? Because you lot were celebrating like you lot had won the league in the changing rooms. Like this is the second time now you beat Liverpool 3-1. You lot were celebrating like you lot had done something spectacular. Like you got your Champions League spot then already, and you come back again with more celebrating. But I get it. You got Champions League. You're trying to be happy, but do you think that was a bit too much?
I think a lot of Arsenal fans were giving it to us, for example. They were like, oh, like Chelsea fans, they were giving it to us for many years, saying that why are we celebrating getting fourth place Champions League football? I think it was a lot in the context of things. This is a Chelsea team where most of these players haven't played in the Champions League. We haven't played in the Champions League for the last 2 years. For them specific to these circumstances, given that it's going to be a big deal for them, um, position like playing for the team, I completely understand why they were celebrating, and I think it was a big sigh of relief because whilst we're not quite Manchester United or Aston Villa in terms of financial this situation, it would have still been quite dire. We wouldn't have been able to make the moves in this coming summer transfer window that we're looking to do to cement our place in the top four, top five. So it's looking much better, provided we get the signings we want. But then again, it's the life of a Chelsea fan is we're going to get the signings we want and we sign 16-year-old kids.
See, what I don't like, and I need to have this looked over because it's really annoying me, and you just pointed it out now. You haven't been in the Champions League for the last 2 years, yet you were invited to go and play in the World Club Cup. And, the requirements for that, it doesn't make sense to me because your positions in the league over the last 4 years haven't been great. You haven't been in the Champions League for the last 2 years, but because you won the Champions League 4 years ago, you got a spot. Like I don't get it. And that's giving you the chance to potentially win 100 million. I hope you don't, So then you can go and buy some more kids, like this is Epstein's Island or something. I don't know, but you know, at the same time, who would have, who really deserved to have that spot next to Manchester City? Because also Manchester City the league, won the league in the last 4 years, and also had done well in the Champions League over the last couple of seasons. So who deserved to be in there with Man City? I'm not gonna say Liverpool. That's what, but yeah, that's what I'm going with. But yeah, I don't really get that. But yeah, you won the game, and without Nicholas Jackson, okay. So this is a great segue to talk about a few transfer rumors which are swirling around. Okay, so we're hearing that you guys are talking to Delap, and so is Manchester United. Okay, so I'm gonna put this question to Hugo because he's more of a impartial here. If you're Delap, who do you join, Chelsea or Manchester United?
One. I think it boils down to game time.
Do you
I
feel
think
Delap
it might be
would
Chelsea.
you got Chelsea?
I think probably Chelsea. I
Okay.
think just because of the two teams and their performances throughout the season and Champions League as well. I guess that just gives Chelsea a little bit more of a, you know, that little step ahead a little bit. But then at the same time, it just goes to game time. But I reckon Delap could probably break into the team and get some minutes. You see, Palmer did when he joined Chelsea and broke into the team, and now he's a mainstay. So maybe that could be the same for Delap. If he can hit the ground running, he's already had a season under his belt. So if he hits the ground running, gets a couple of goals, who knows? He might be that number 9. But yeah, I think it was me. I think right now, when you consider everything and you juggle everything, I think Chelsea just step ahead at the moment.
The question is there, and I'm going to put this to the both of you, Miguel and Mike, is the lap a better striker than both Nicholas Jackson and Højlund? Rasmus. Rasmus. Okay, well, one of you.
Go on, Miguel, you go first.
I think one of the key things to bear in mind is if it's Enzo making the decision, Enzo's managed him before, back at Man City, and they've operated
No,
very
that's
well.
not what I asked you, bro. I'm gonna ask you what Maresca
He's building.
thinks.
He's building. Let him land. He's
Yeah,
building.
His
yeah, yeah.
building, his building should be on his opinion. Is Højlund is the lap
It is.
better than Jackson?
I think, in my honest opinion, bearing in mind the Lats playing for relegated Ipswich, he is an upgrade on Jackson, plain and simple,
Okay,
because he
thank
is a
you.
better profile
He
for our team.
landed. What about you, Mike? Is the lap better than Højlund? That's a
Oh,
total question, to
100%.
be fair.
100%. 100%.
Okay, so both of you would have the lap over both your strikers. But who deserves him? Who deserves to have their number 9 replaced the most?
I think being the starting striker for Chelsea, I think for the lap it's a little bit too early, given the expectations fans are going to have. As an understudy would make sense. I think he'll get more minutes at United. So I think for him personally, even though he won't get European football, probably a better move to go to United because I think Amram will cook. I think he is gonna eventually take over the mantle from Harry Kane in like the coming years.
And do you agree with this, Mike?
Yeah, I think the attraction of Champions League football is there for any player, right? But I think, oh, because he's only played one full season at Ipswich, and I think he played a few games for Man City, didn't he, before he joined? So I think the inexperience. That's one thing that worries me is inexperience. I would rather have Mateta than Delap,
This has been thrown
personally.
into the hat here.
He's
Yeah?
more physical, scored more goals, got more experience. But not to discredit Delap, I think Delap could be a great player because you'll have that experience around him with players like Bruno and Maguire and even Ahmed. Now he's got some games under his belt. So I think it's a tough one because I think Chelsea edge it, but I think I think it just comes under minutes and game time, and I think he'd get more United than he would at Chelsea, personally. So
Well, I hear that, and both of you have given some compelling reasons for why they should or shouldn't join your club. Um, I see it as he has to leave Ipswich. They've been relegated. I feel that he is good enough to be playing in the Premier League. So him going back into the Championship wouldn't do his career any good. Joining Chelsea, I feel will probably be where he wants to be. Champions League football. I feel he has the ability to dislodge Nicholas Jackson from the starting 11. And if you are going to go down this young up and coming talents and turn them into world beaters, then it's probably the perfect place to go. You have him and Cole Palmer linking up, which could be a good sight to see. In terms of United, yeah, you did mention Mateta, but then you have to ask yourself, would Mateta leave Crystal Palace to go with European football to go and play at United? Cunha's doing it, but Cunha's doing it because he's leaving Wolves. Now, leaving Wolves and going to Manchester United, regardless of European football, is still a step up because they have nothing. I reckon if Wolves had uh, been up there, if they were where Brighton were and were ending up like 8th, different story. He may would have stayed. he could be like, okay, sign your contract, get more money, and then put a really bigger asking price on him because there's no point, they wouldn't be able to lose him. But being, I think Man United jumped to 15th. I think he jumped ahead of Wolves, didn't you? I think they dropped down to 16th, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
I think you caught them. If I look at the league table, because looking at Wolves now, they're gonna be what they ended up being. Yeah, 16th, so just one place low, just above Tottenham, on 42 points. Now they're gonna now go into next season without one of the best tens in the league. Not just one of the best, not just their best player, but one of the best tens in the league would now be potentially joining Manchester United. So yeah, I'll say it is a step up for him. Mateta, I don't know. I think Palace will do their best to try and hold back from losing all their stars. They've already lost they lost Christensen, they lost Elise last season. So I think people are going to be looking around Eze, but I feel like he will stay for at least next season. So I feel like Palace will do the best to keep hold of the players and not lose them to Man United, who they'll probably look at and think, well, why would you want to do that? It's weird to say that about Manchester United, but let's be real. Even I felt that after the Europa League final, if I was Cunha's agent, I'd be asking for more money. Because why would I want to leave Wolves and come to United when you lot are in a load of disarray? There's going to be a lot of movement. At some point, people weren't even knowing if the manager was even going to stay. So I don't know who would look more attractive. But at the same time, Cunha, 62 million. Couldn't there have been other? Why haven't anybody else gone in for Cunha?
Would you say if Eze and Gay if they leave Palace, would you say Mateta would be more inclined to even consider Man United?
I think if they lose Eze and Mark Guehi, Mateta's not going anywhere. That's too many players to lose. Because once you lose them, I think you're only going to go backwards. You're just going to get shredded, and before you know it, you're Southampton. Because that's happened to Southampton. They lost a load of their best players, and look at them now. They're a yo-yo team. They're going to go up and down. They're the new Burnley. I see it because Burnley now we're back in the Premier League, but they'll be out again and again, out again and again. So yeah, I think that will happen. But we'll leave transfers for like another show where we will do a transfer show special now that the season is now over. So gotta quickly focus on the games of the week. So we'll just quickly go through them. Okay, so everybody played, and there were some interesting scores. So first and foremost, Bournemouth finishing off the season with a 2-0 win over Leicester. I don't think anybody is surprised. I don't know if there's been any announcement on what's happening with Ruud van Nistelrooy, but should he stay, or would we even be surprised if he gets sacked?
Well, it's like a Leicester spot for choice in terms of managers. If they sack Van Nistelrooy, who are they going to bring in? What's their approach? Are they if they do sack him, are they then going to look for someone who has championship pedigree to get them back up, or do they think we'll keep Van Nistelrooy? He probably we've seen enough in him, even though we've been relegated. We've seen enough in him to bring us back up to the Premier League. Because we know with the squad that Leicester have, I'm sure that they'll come back up first time of asking. So it just depends what they want. I reckon they probably might stick with him. He hasn't had a full season, has he? He came in January, didn't he?
Yeah, he came in pretty late.
Yeah, right. So he hasn't really had like a full transfer window really, and a full season.
So should he get? So you're saying he should get a chance to stay to at least to try and show what he can do.
Yeah, I reckon he should be given a chance to like at least bring them back up.
So the question is, does he want to stay?
But then they could, decide to look for someone who has championship pedigree in terms of promotions to bring them back up. But I don't know.
Okay. So Fulham 0, Manchester City 2. Manchester City finish off the season strong. They were going into the game in the same situation as the others who were chasing the Champions League spots, as if they had lost this match, they would have been potentially out of Champions League spot, but they managed to get the job done. But is it, still too late of the season and getting victory? They missed out on the FA Cup final, losing that game. They end up being third. how would Pep or how should Pep take how this league went, like this campaign? What do you feel he's gonna, what could be rectified here? Should Pep stay? Should he go? Are they gonna go on a crazy transfer spree, or is it just waiting for players to come back from injury or come back on form? Because Phil Foden, let's be real, he was missing for the whole season. So are we going to get Phil Foden we knew back in 2024 in 2025?
I wouldn't get rid of Pep. I'll still keep him. You can't. Maybe this has been Pep's worst season in his tenure at City, so you can't just kick him out just because City went trophyless and they didn't win the league. I just think maybe some of the players have come to the end of their cycle, so he just needs to just revamp the squad, add in a few players here and there, get rid of the deadwood, and then I think you'll see City back to normal next season. So yeah, I think it'll be pretty harsh to get rid of him. So yeah, I don't think they'll be doing any sort of cannon fodder like Chelsea did, where they'll just get rid of managers like no man's business. Previously. No offense, Migs. But yeah, I think it's just one of those seasons. Some players have a blimp. It's just one of those things. So, but I reckon they just need to refresh the squad, and I'm sure they'll be back. But it's refreshing to see, though.
Think someone's hating on Manchester City right there. We'll be interested to see what some of you guys will think when we do have our like transfer game where we'll be suggesting who will buy who based on news and what people said on the socials. So we've got Ipswich 1, West Ham 3. That was a mere nothing game. Ipswich already gone. West Ham really didn't have anything to play for but pride. But again, Mr. Bowen pops up. Do you feel that, is Bowen too big for West Ham? Should he be seeking a move in the summer? Mike, what do you think?
No, I think he should stay. Because where's he going to go?
Well, you think you think West Ham's a ceiling?
I'll
No,
take him.
I just can't see him at any other team.
I'd have Bowen.
I think he's a good player, but I can't see him in the top four. Where's he going to fit in the top five teams?
Bench?
Well, yeah, the bench. But why do you want to play on the bench
Because
when you can start with West Ham?
there's a lot of games. There's a lot of games, and maybe Arsenal, because Arsenal have a lot of injuries all the time. So maybe he could go to Arsenal. Rice went there. And they definitely need a player on the right to back up from Saka. Give him a bit of rest instead of flogging him like a racehorse. Until his hamstrings pop off again. I don't want to be hearing from Arsenal. For some reason, we haven't got any Arsenal fans on the panel today. So maybe that's a good thing. But they don't have anything to speak about. Let's be real. But yeah, maybe Bowen should be. Maybe they should be looking at someone like Bowen. What do you think, Miguel? Would you have him at? Would you have him at Chelsea?
I think similar to Mike, I think exception of one season, has never really done a whole lot at City, but he really excelled when he was the main man at Villa. And I think Bowen kind of falls into that category where when he's like the star man, people love and adore him and they put him on this pedestal, he really excels. But it's a different ball game when you go to a top six, top five club and you're the pressure of competing for silverware is always there. So I think he's very much in his comfort zone. I think where I assess him most is when I watch him play for England. Oh, solid player, but he would be a rotational squad player at most if he went to a top club.
So basically, he should be stay as a West Ham darling and not try and improve his playing career by going and test himself at the highest level in the best European competitions. You're cold. You're cold. All right. Liverpool versus Crystal Palace. Again, foregone conclusion on that. Liverpool didn't have to win, didn't care if they lost, but I felt like with it being the last home game of the season, they had to put in a performance. Haven't won a game since winning the league. I'm not going to say it was done on purpose because every other rival fan sometimes I feel doesn't looks at the picture, not in its full glory, maybe looking at the glass half full. Liverpool clinched the title. It was a chance for Klopp over the next, so Klopp, so Slot, it was chance for Slot over the next few games to give some game time to those who have been on the edge of the squads, which then kind of like disbalanced the team. And it showed. It really did show. Even in the game against Brighton the game before, Van Dijk got rested, and we ended up losing 3-2 to Brighton. Where I thought if Van Dijk had played, we would have won that game. But it is what it is. Job done. So, there was going to be no record points, so might as well, get hold of that. If this was Klopp, he would have been chasing, you know, as much points as he could. But Slot was like, you know what, this team, I need to see what others are having, and he's used the same 14, 15 players all season. Salah was chasing that GA, trying to get the 20 assists. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but he did score, so he did hit 29 goals this season again. This is what his 8th season in a row where he's hit over 20 goals. Came close to getting the 20 assists. But I felt like over the last 8 games, I think it was really forced. It was like when people start talking about getting the assist record, I think that's where it kind of went down. Or maybe if Nunes had converted a few chances, then maybe he would have got that. He would have got the 20 assists. But he hit another record. Liverpool won the title. We celebrated and we keep it moving. Manchester United 2, Villa 0. We already got that. We already spoke about it, so that's fine. Prize result: Newcastle 0, Everton 1. Newcastle losing at home on the last day of the season. They got life. Now, we knew coming into the game being the final game of the season, the teams who were chasing the Champions League could not afford to lose. Newcastle definitely couldn't afford to lose, being in the position they were. And they were given a lifeline by the fact that Manchester United were able to go and beat Aston Villa, which was kind of like unexpected. But it was unexpected for United to lose. So with them playing almost, I would say, their strongest team, losing 1-0 to Everton at home in a crucial game where they needed to win, what does that really say about Newcastle going into this next season for Champions League?
I think,
It
Go on,
happens
Mike.
whenever you're
yeah,
vying for something, there's always another team that comes in and spoils the party. And I think Everton are still on this new manager bounce. Since Moyes has come in, he's just galvanized them in a way where they're just collecting points. They got this new sense of confidence now, So you can see that Moyes is a proper coach. He comes in, he's got previous at Everton, so the players are warm to him. They run through brick walls for him. The fans are on his side as well. So yeah, whether Everton can carry that on into the new season, who knows? But ever since Moyes has come back, you can see this new sort of vigor within the Everton ranks again. So I wasn't really surprised by that result. It always happens whenever you're a team that's vying for Champions League, like Newcastle are. You're always gonna get a team that might come in and disrupt your flow. So
But did you
maybe that's something
expect?
that
But
maybe
did you
Newcastle
expect
can
that
do.
out of all the fixtures that were going into that on that last game, was the one there Newcastle where you thought that was a potential banana skin? Was that there, or did you feel like Newcastle going to handle business?
Possibly, you would expect Newcastle to win that game, but then seen as it didn't, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's typical Everton, just being a banana skin. It could go either way, but this is why we love the Premier League. A surprise here and there, especially at the business end of the season. So yeah, from my point of view, I was expecting Newcastle to win. I wasn't surprised that Everton stole the 3 points there. So
So, Migs, were you, or how are you feeling knowing, that I think it was 1-0 when it was 0-0 with you guys. So, how are you feeling about that? Were you like somebody's doing your job, or, you know,
I think I think it was summed up pretty well when I was like talking about afterwards with a few friends, and it was just a case of the new up and coming teams, Villa, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, on the final day, none of them really took it by the scruff of the neck and really took ownership of I'm going to be in the Champions League. This is my spot. just based on the fact that they had a higher goal difference. Newcastle, of course, got the fifth and final spot, but I wasn't surprised. Look, I think I like Hugo said, Everton ever since Moyes came in, they've been a completely different team. New manager bounce, and they're hard to beat. They've held Arsenal, for example, to two draws this season, so they're not necessarily the easiest team. And well, Newcastle have a lot of tall players. They're quite rough in the way they play, and that's kind of their style. But Everton very much they play in a similar way, but just to not to the greatest efficiency like them. But I think this is definitely ringing a lot of alarm bells for Newcastle. Like a couple of seasons ago when they got Champions League football and it was too much for them because they didn't have the depth across the squad. So they need to be very, very particular with how they spend their money in this coming summer. Otherwise, I think they might experience a repeat of the last time they had Champions League football.
So then we had not the Forest, Chelsea one, which we kind of spoken about. Southampton 2, Southampton 1, Arsenal 2. Again, that was a foregone conclusion. Arsenal had already claimed their spot in the Champions League and secured second place the week before. Southampton started, well, they ended the league how they started, bottom. And then they went out with a whimper, losing at home, which was expected. Then we had Tottenham 1, Brighton 4. I think it was expected, but not 4 goals. It was a case of, yeah, the players, they've got the Champions League football, they don't care. But at the same time, I felt home pride. They'll want to at least try and win their last home game of the season. They're about to go and celebrate again with the fans and have the families on the pitch and be nice. But to get scored by Brighton, like that was pretty poor. It was almost like, well, we did what we could to win the Europa League, and then came next game and just got absolutely had your pants pulled down. You know, Ugo, how do you feel? I know that you were elated winning Europa, and probably the result you're probably like, bah, but it's 22 defeats in the league.
Yeah, so I wasn't surprised that we lost, and I wasn't surprised by the scoreline. Our defense has been leaky all season. We've conceded 65 goals this season. So I wasn't surprised. I watched the highlights of the match of the day, and the defending was just diabolical. So this is where Spurs fans there's a divide in terms of whether we would be happy if Postecoglou stayed or if he goes. So I've always been Ange out regardless of the Europa League win anyway, because you just can't hide the fact that the league form has been atrocious. So yeah, I wasn't surprised by the score. We've only won like 10 games at home. Our home record has been pants this season. You shouldn't be losing that amount of games at home. So yeah, so hence why Ange out. We need to bring a new manager in to take us into the Champions League and whatnot.
What I didn't.
Yeah, you can say that the players had a bit of a hangover due to the Europa League win.
Did you make many
He changed the
changes?
team a bit,
Okay,
and
yeah.
he put in some players, gave him some minutes who hadn't played
Okay,
or didn't play that much in the Europa League final.
okay.
But yeah, just even if you replace players, you should still, be able to produce a result. Yeah, at home, it would be nice to have just ended the season just on a happy note. We won the Europa League, get 3 points, and then we go away and start again. But to win the Europa League and then lose at home in your next game, it's just been typical us. It's how we've been all season. It's been a yo-yo season. We'll win one game one week and then lose the following week. There's been no consistency throughout the whole season. Can't take that into next season because I can't see another season like this. This has been the worst season ever. And yeah, I think thanks Ange, but goodbye.
38 games, 22 losses, -2. Oof. But you won the trophy. That's incredible. So you have Wolverhampton 1, Brentford 1. Again, this game really didn't mean anything. Brighton's win confirmed 8th place, and potentially they'll go into the Conference League depending on the result of Wednesday's game between Chelsea and Betis. But Brentford, having in Mbeumo score 19, I think it's 19 goals he scored. I think him and Wissa both hitting 18 and 19. best double act in the Premier League this season. People are comparing him to the New York and Andy Cole combination, and when was looking like he could potentially be his way out of Brentford, and looks like Manchester United are going in for him. How do you feel about that, Mike?
Yeah, I'd be happy if he joined. I think you obviously Cunha as a 10,
Hmm.
and then Mbeumo as a 10. So yeah, I'd be really happy with that. And then if we could get Delapo, I don't think we'll get Gyökeres actually. I don't think he'll come to United. It'll be a miracle. But having them three, imagine having Cunha, Gyökeres, and Mbeumo as your front three. That'd be amazing.
So wait, so hold on. Look at it as this, because we know where he does his magic in Buemo, and it's on the right hand side, because they play with like a 4-3-3 attack with in Buemo, Wissa, and Kevin Sade. So you've already got Ahmad, who's broken into that first team, as claiming that spot as his own. You don't really play with a front three. You play with what, two tens and the nine. So it's weird. I haven't seen when we play as a 10. Could be different. You potentially bringing in Cunha. So if you do bringing in Buemo, neither of them are going to be sitting on the bench. So do you feel that this could pave the way for Bruno Fernandes to be sold? He's 30 years old. He'll be 31 this
No,
year. 100 million. You tell me that
plays
Manchester
number 8.
United, if you're going to set dinner ladies, how are you not going to take 100 million for Bruno Fernandes?
No, because he wants to keep him. Bruno Fernandes will play more deeper.
Yeah, I think if you lose
Speak the ball
Fernandez,
into the tens.
if you sell him, you lose that creative spark.
But then
He's
you've got
Yeah,
putting
he's
it
Cunha.
in.
been our best player. Why would you sell? Why would you sell your best player?
Listen, for based on what newspapers are saying, Fernandez is already learning Arabic with the stupid money they're offering him.
He's saying inshallah right
If
now.
he goes, great. You know, it's 100, hopefully 100 million we can spend on someone else. But I think I think we should keep him. I think it'd be silly to sell him.
So confirmed, we have Liverpool in the Champions League via winning the Premier League. We have Arsenal, who gained second. Manchester City, Chelsea, Newcastle, and Tottenham will all be in the Champions League. Europa League, we have Aston Villa, who finished sixth, and the Crystal Palace, who won the FA Cup. And then we have the Europa League spot to Nottingham Forest, who ended up in seventh. Now, as I said before, Chelsea, if they do win the Conference League on Wednesday, I believe that does open up another spot um, for. Is it for the Conference League or be another Europa League spot?
um, would it be Europa? Yeah, I think wouldn't it? Yeah, it would be Europa League.
Okay, so now Europa League spot would then be handy. So then, what would Nottingham Forest get it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then whoever's below Forest should get Conference League
Conference
spot.
League. Okay, yeah, so that would definitely be Brighton then who would get that. Okay, so that's what we are looking at. Right, so with the Premier League now wrapped up, we can have a look at some of the individual awards which have already been given and some yet to be given, but that won't stop us from looking at the at the candidates of those awards. Okay, my chair is broken right now. I don't know if you heard that squeaking. Yeah, if you don't want to put together a little fund for me to get a new chair, that would be nice. Okay, we'll start with £5 from each person. Yeah. So clear winner of Player of the Season, Mo Salah. Was there anyone close?
No, I wouldn't say there's anyone close, but I think you've got to credit Fernandes comes second for me. As and what he's done for United and the way he's carried the team. I think he if you had someone second, I'd give Fernandes.
Okay. So
I
you've
think to
gone
play
with
devil,
Fernandez. What are you saying, Miguel?
play devil's advocate, can you really say someone's the second best player in the league when they're playing for a 15th place team?
Well, he's given his reasons
Yeah, but
for it.
why is there a voice echo?
And that's been playing out. I'm trying to adjust the sound now. Keep talking, sorry.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, finished 15th in the league, but at the same time, you look at the way, or maybe he's just in a really bad team. But I think if you look at the players around him compared to Liverpool, he's got worse players around him, in my opinion. that Liverpool does. Salah's got better stats and assists, but Bruno's playing a lot deeper than what Salah is as a forward, and he's been relied on to score goals. Whereas Salah's main role is to score goals. Bruno's is just to feed the ball to players like Højlund who are meant to score the goals, and he hasn't.
Well,
So
isn't Salah's
I
job
don't
as a
think.
winger to supply the striker though?
Yeah, but he's a forward player, so he's got more chances to get those assists and to score those goals.
And Hugo, what do you feel? Do you feel
That's
Mike
just my
is right?
take.
Do you think Fernandes is second behind Salah? Whose name are you throwing into the ring?
James Madison.
I think maybe that's about right. No one beats Salah. He's out in front by a mile. Below him, I guess maybe Fernandes comes close. From the best of the rest. I don't really know much in terms of who's had like most assists or whatnot. Players that spring to mind that have made an impact throughout the season. You can talk about maybe your Eze's, maybe Wharton. Who else? I don't think that's all I can think of really. To be honest,
We'll go with that. We'll go Wharton.
yeah, but I think I'll leave it as that. I think
I would say
Salah's out on top, then Fernandes follows. I don't think there's anyone
Miggs
else
is
really.
shaking his head. Who you saying? Who you throwing in? And
if
don't
you're
say
not just
Palmer.
thinking, no. Like I would say the more like he's probably our best player, but he's been out of form for God knows how long. I would say if you're looking purely at what they do for the team week in, week out, and without them, we would be in a completely different position in the league. It has to be Caicedo for me. He may not get all the goals and the assists and all the glory, but my God, the amount of times he saved our ass, he's been an absolute destroyer. It's been like a throwback to the Kante days.
Okay, so you've gone with Caicedo. Mike's gone with Bruno Fernandes. And Hugo, I don't know, you were saying Walton or who you going with as behind Salah?
Stick with Fernandes.
Stick with Fernandes. Okay. Okay, cool. Right, moving on. Young Player of the Year was given to Ryan Gravenberch of Liverpool, who I felt was a deserved winner of the of the award. I think he's been really consistent this season, and he has been a shining light in the Liverpool midfield. And I feel like Liverpool may not even have won the league, or maybe won the league with so far if he wasn't on the pitch. He's come in, he's changed. He's been told to play a different role from what he's used to, but he can play that, and he has shown that he's one of the best central fielders now in the Premier League, and he did it at ease. It looked like he had been playing there for years. I feel like he is a special talent and yeah, a worthy winner of the award. So we will look at who do you feel. I haven't seen who came runners up. I don't think they even name runners up. They just say who was nominated. But starting with Miguel, who do you felt should have been a worthy winner alongside Gravenberch?
I think within that age bracket, I was up to 23 years of age, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I think Gravenberch, by and far, yeah, he was probably the most standout player. It was a big difference, like under Klopp compared to now on the slot. So I think it was a very good season for him to see if he can build on. But if I'm being honest, like no player really comes to mind under 23s. Let me just remind myself. But then
So give you some time. Yeah, give you some time. Well, Chelsea bought so many 23-year-olds. Maybe that's why you're confused. And while you think about it, Mike, who would you go with? Young player of the year, or wow, you nudge Gravenberch to the side.
You know what? I don't know what you guys think. I think Ahmed comes to mind. But then he was injured.
Okay.
But for me, I wouldn't put Ahmed second. I'd probably put Ahmed in the top 5. I think, yeah, aside the injuries, I think he's had a good season, and he saved us a number of times.
Yep, scored 2 goals against City. One you lot that game.
Yeah,
He's come. Yeah,
yeah,
he's done some bits. Okay, so Ahmad,
yeah, exactly.
Hugo, who's your recommendation?
Yeah, Gravenberch probably miles ahead. I would also throw into the ring. We've talked about him before. Rory Delap. He's made an impact. No, sorry, Liam Delap. Talking about his dad. Oh my goodness, that shows you how old I am. Liam Delap, and how much he's made an impact for Ipswich, even though they got relegated. His dad had a good throw, by the way. And also I would throw in Dean Hyson,
Dean,
Bournemouth.
yes, I was waiting for
I
someone to
forgot
say that.
about him. Yeah.
Dean Huyson, who secured a 50 million move to Real Madrid. Now, no Arsenal fans are here, which is a good thing. But one name I kept on seeing when nominations was Miles Lewis Skelly. Now, I admit he's a very good player and he's broken through to the Arsenal first team. He's done well. He's broken through to England. But do you feel like he had played enough games to even earn a shot at Young Player of the Year?
Yeah, I think so. I don't
12
think it really mattered,
games.
huh?
12 games?
I think that's enough. I think he's shown enough to him to be pretty much a mainstay he's pretty much cemented that spot in the Arsenal squad. And he's also going to the England team. So if you can get into those squads at the speed that he has, then I don't think you can complain if he's been nominated as a Young Player of the Year.
Well, Lewis Hall was injured, so let's just say that Lewis Skelly was lucky for that because I feel like Lewis Hall had that left back for England secured, had left back and and to be fair, I feel that he's probably at this moment in time before he got injured is the second best left back, or okay, maybe like maybe top five left backs in the Premier League. But as a young player, I feel like at his age, is what Lewis Hall's like, what 20, 21?
What do you guys think of, now that had a good think about Anthony Elanga? 6 goals, 11 assists.
You know what? It's
He's
crazy
a good
because
player.
he's
He's a
been
good
around
player.
for time. Yeah, we called him a young player, but he is.
Hmm.
He's 23, isn't he?
Yeah. I he was a big part of what Forest almost did successfully. They still got European football, so if you were to tell anyone, the team that almost got relegated the season before will go on and be up there fighting for Champions League spots the season after. I think he was a big part of that. I think
They got double the
Wolves,
points that they got last
Gibbs
season.
White, they get a lot of love, but I feel like Elanga sometimes people forget about him. Gets called a bit of a pace merchant, doesn't he?
Yeah, United forgot about him. That's why they sold him. But at the same time, yeah, you're right. And I feel like Nottingham Forest should not be disappointed. I think maybe for them getting Champions League football would have been an overachievement. So I ended up getting, Conference League football, and it's a way into, and I thought that they'll probably be one of the best teams in that. So they could end up having a European title, if they manage to keep their players. And again, that would get them a spot into the Europa League. Okay, so is that who you're sticking? Is that who you're sticking with? You're sticking with Elanga?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so we move on to manager of the season. No need to ask me who I think should get it. So you lot can argue it amongst yourselves, and I'll start with Mike. Who do you feel should be manager of the season?
My first initial thought is Slot, but I think he's inherited a good team anyway. And yeah, it's impressive with what he's done winning the league in his first season, but I think I've got to give it to, it's a tie between Forest and Bournemouth. I think what Santos did with, I'm mistaken, I think it was 17th, 7th is incredible. I also think what's his face, suspended Bournemouth, what he's done at Bournemouth,
Iriola.
Ariana, that's it. I think they were in the bottom half of the table, aren't they? And then he's I think they finished 8th or 9th this season. And
Where
I
they
think
finish?
for some team like Bournemouth,
10th.
you only got promoted. When did they get promoted? Like a year ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, they got relegated
So
and they came back again.
they've done really well. So I think if he had the right resources, I think if he had the spend, I think it's crazy to say. I think they could push for top 6, top 5.
Okay.
Honestly,
So you're going with
I want to
you
say
got
Bournemouth. I
you
want
got
to say Bournemouth.
so Iriola should get
Ariana.
manager of the season.
No, sorry. Okay, no, sorry. I'll take it back. Reverse. I'd say the Forest.
So Nuno, Espírito
Yeah,
Santos,
I'd
yeah.
Nuno. I'd go
All right.
Nuno, yeah.
Miguel, who do you feel should get manager of the season?
I think, as much as I understand people's point of view that Slot inherited like a ready-made squad, so to speak. I think people forget a lot of the predictions and a lot of the mindset where they were saying, oh, like Liverpool need this and need that, and they were coming in with expectations where it was going to be like a period of transition. Like everyone's seen what's happened to Arsenal after Wenger, Man United after Ferguson. It's not easy, but I think definitely just slotted in. As much as I want to say, like if Forest had gotten Champions League football, I think without a doubt it would have gone to Nuno Espirito Santos.
Yeah,
But everyone else, there's kind of like a bit of an asterisk next to their name that you can kind of argue, like Bournemouth, they've been out on form for how long? Brighton are very much a yo-yo club. Good result one week, and then the next week they get battered by God knows who. But I think Liverpool, after the league was won, up to that point, that was the most frustrating thing. So definitely, I think Slot does deserve it.
go over to you.
I'm gonna break the mold here. Even though, yeah, people can say Slot deserved it, I still think it took over Klopp's team. I think even if Obi managed Liverpool, he would win the league as well. I don't think Liverpool needed a huge turnaround in terms of personnel. I think you had a decent squad anyway. Maybe you might need one or two players here and there, but you've pretty much got a settled squad. So I don't think you needed much change in there. It'll be interesting to see what Slot does season 2 and whether he brings in additional players, some of his own players.
And we can
Maybe
see at the moment we're doing that.
he might jump. Yeah, we've seen already. He may even look into the Dutch league and see whether he might snap some players here and there. But other than that, my man of the season goes to Glasner, and that's just for winning the FA Cup.
Okay, so Glasner. Okay, I like that. And I probably would support that and say probably Glasner, but I'm sticking with Slot. Reason being, yes, he did. Oh,
No, can carry on.
okay. Um, yes, he did take over a team which Klopp had put together, and it was a pretty good team. Um, didn't make really any transfers, spent really nothing. Bought Chiesa, but didn't even use him. It's like buying a new tire and just putting it in your boot. He, came from the Dutch league straight to Premier League first season, won the league. When, as Miguel pointed out, the predictions. If you go for social media, you have some content creators saying Slot who, someone saying he'll be fired by Christmas. Do you know how many times I heard that? I see videos now, people putting together compilations of people saying, you know what, Liverpool going to fall off, they're going to end up fifth, maybe sixth. Nothing, Slot's gonna get fired. He's gonna, he's not gonna fund the Premier League, and he's gonna be gone, and all of this type of stuff. And he's gone, and he's just knocked out all of everybody's predictions of what was going to happen. Came in, won the title, and won the title with 4 games to go, and won it by 10 points. Fair enough. He already had a team that was pretty much set up, but he still had to install his own tactics, his own way of how he wants the team to play. He still picks the players. He has to talk to the players, he has to encourage them. So he still has to manage them. A lot of these players could have carried on and been like, in really unhappy that Klopp has gone, and who's this new guy? It's almost like when your favorite teacher has left and a new person comes in and it's like, oh, I don't really like you, type of thing. So for him to come in and to be dealing with Salah's contract, VVD's contract, and Trent's contract rumors throughout that and win the league, I have to applaud him for that. I'm not being biased, but I don't really care, to be fair. I thought that he was, really, he was really good. First half of the season, blew everybody out the water, and after the first like 6-7 games, Liverpool never looked back. And to keep that consistency and stay top, not only top in the league, but he was also top of the Champions League groups. So he was keeping it consistent, not only in Premier League, but also keeping it consistent in the Champions League. But yeah, we want to see what he's going to do in season 2. The season, even before the season even closed and ended, we were already on the verge of, wrapping up 3 new players already. So moving very quickly. I'm not going to say that's Slot. I'm going to say that's more of the club on its vision. But things are looking nice, and that would be a great way for us to jump on the new episode. We'll be talking about the transfers and where we go. Obviously, we have the curtain the curtain will drop on the Champions League final on the 31st this Saturday. So we might as well give our predictions while we're here. So we've got PSG who, after maybe I would say after beating Liverpool, I would say the odds went up into reaching the final or not just winning it. And they have Inter who, in a sense, when they got to the quarterfinal stage, people thought, okay, there could be a threat. But I would say not many thought that they will probably make it to the final. So we've got PSG Inter on Saturday. Who do we feel is going to be victorious? And I'll start with Ugo as an honorary Inter Milan fan. I know who you would like to win, but you are also a PSG fan, crazy enough. Actually, before you even answer, just a bit of knowledge on this, and this is a thing, and this shows how old, or it shows our age of me and brother and our scope in football. We've been following football from day dot, and we've always had an interest not just in the Premier League but in other European footballs. And I'm gonna be real here, and I don't know how you feel about this, bruv, but I'm gonna tell you this how I felt. I enjoyed and liked the Italian league more than I did the Premier League. I'm just throwing up my hands. Channel 4 on a Sunday, it was Gaza Italia, and I used to love it. And I used to love watching Italian football. So from there, we had our own, our own clubs. We're not going to go through all the clubs around Europe we support, but I know where Italian support has lied for years. I've been solid with Juventus since day dot, and my brother here has been solid with Inter Milan. Now we move on to France. I've always been a Lyon fan, and my brother has always been a PSG fan from day dot. No glory hunting. We're talking about the days of Rye, you know, uh, the days of what was that French keeper with the funny hair? What was his name again? Oh my days,
Bernard Lamar,
Bernard Lamar. When JJ Kocher was there, when Ronaldinho was there, even before
Yuri
then.
Zokayev,
There you go. So I don't know how you're feeling about this game because
and Split.
you're split, but you're a winner either way. But sometimes you're gonna have one of these teams that you have more of a feeling for, and I have a feel that you have more of a I thought that Inter's closer to your liver than PSG are. I was gonna say heart, but Tottenham's your heart. So I feel like Inter is close to your liver, because the liver's important. Remember that, yeah. I think Inter are closer to your liver than PSG.
I'm gonna shock you there, to be honest,
Ooh,
because the only reason why, because yeah, I love Inter Milan to win another Champions League, but
you
I
got
want
Inter
PSG
shirt.
to win it.
You got Inter
Yeah, I
shirt. I
know.
know you got Inter shirt.
Yeah, I know. I've got a couple, but yeah, I want PSG to win it only because Inter won it in 2010, so Inter have won it already.
Ah, okay,
PSG
makes
haven't.
sense.
PSG haven't, and I think PSG slightly deserve it a little bit because of the route they've taken to get there and the teams that they've dispatched on the way. And also another thing as well is that Marseille have been the only French team to win the Champions League. So I think it's time PSG equal that. So I think it's about time. It's now or never. If PSG don't win it now, when are they ever going to win it? And I think they have the team now. I think PSG have broken away from their sort of like, the League Galacticos,
Almost, yeah.
and they've now sort of like balanced their squad with like young French players, exciting players. And I think this is their time now. And also I think PSG have towards the end of the season, they've pretty much been on a decent run, getting results, whereas Inter have faltered over the last couple of weeks and they lost the league to Napoli. So I think that might go in PSG's favour.
Favor.
It's going to be an off game, a one-off game anyway. But I just think in terms of form right now, I think PSG just sneak it just a little bit. So yeah, I don't mind who wins either way because I'm fond of both teams, but I want PSG to win it, and I think they'll just sneak it 2-1.
Miguelito, we're most likely going to be watching the game together on Saturday. So what's a prediction? Or should I even ask you who do you want to win, or should I just go straight for prediction?
I think, well, this is their time now where they've kind of left behind all the Galacticos, Messi, Neymar, all these players that won inflated salaries, and now they're going for a team of collectives. But something about this Inter squad, watching the way they grinded that result out against Barcelona, they just got a bit more grit about them. And I feel like if push comes to shove, I think they just got that quality. With them having got to the final, I think very recently in the last few years, I think they just got that bit more experience being on that main stage match. I think PSG going forward, like their attack, definitely better. But I think all round Inter with Bastoni and all these other players at the back, I think they're definitely a bit more balanced.
Mike?
I'm gonna go PSG. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say the difference is Donnarumma. I think he's, for me, he's the best goalkeeper in the world at the moment.
Okay, relax, bruv. All right, man's had a good Champions
No,
League.
but I think he is. I
No,
think he's better than Alisson, in my
I'll give
opinion.
him. Keep your opinions to yourself. Nobody asked you. No, I'm
But
joking.
but listen, but jokes aside, I think Inter Milan have got that fight and that, as Miguel said, that grit in them, and they've got their mentality. But I think PSG, the fluidity, I just think the way they play, and I think Donnarumma is going to be the key, and I think he's going to have to do a lot of work on the night. I think it'll be a very close game. I think it'll be like 2-1 to PSG, but I think Donnarumma is going to be the difference because they both. I think in terms of PSG and Milan's midfield and forward players are brilliant, and I think maybe you could argue Milan's got a stronger defence, but I think that in terms of goalkeepers, Donnarumma's he's way better than, not way better, but he's just like having a giant in goal. You just can't get past anything past him. So I think yeah, he'll be the difference, and I think PSG will.
Well, Donnarumma is a former AC Milan youth product, so he knows Inter very well, and I think he would love to be able to stop them from winning the Champions League and also help PSG to their first ever Champions League. And as Hugo stated, Marseille are the last French team or the only French team to win the Champions League. So, you know, I've always had a thing where whoever defeats my team should go on and win the competition. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, but the fact that PSG knocked out Liverpool, I wanted PSG to go all the way and win it. So at least, they won a competition. It happened last year. Atalanta defeated Liverpool in the Europa League and won the competition. So I want the same for PSG. It'll be great. It'll be good to see those young French players and also, I don't know how to say his name now. Yeah,
Kevin Valley,
Kvaratskhelia.
I destroyed his name, but yeah.
Yeah, the Georgian Messi. I want to see the Georgian Messi. He did a bold move, left Napoli. In the January transfer window, made the switch to PSG. Apparently, I'm hearing that he will actually still get a medal for both because he'll be the first player to collect two titles in two different countries, And imagine he wins the Champions League. That means he's a winner in Serie A with Napoli, he's a winner in PSG's league, and then he wins the Champions League. Give him the Ballon d'Or, might as well, just for the fake on that. So yeah, so I really want a PSG win. I feel like PSG will win, and I think it'll be a close game, and both keepers are going to play major roles in this. But I think I'm going to go with Mike there. Donnarumma is going to be a key. He makes the crucial saves. He's been the best keeper in the Champions League this season. So yeah, I can understand why he would say that blasphemy and say that Donnarumma's better than Alisson, but that's not the case. He's still got time before he can lace his boots in my eyes. Anyway, he's just as good as Vicario if I'm being right. So wrap it. We're just gonna wrap this up because we are now 1 hour 31. So I think it's time for us to wrap this up. Have you got anything else to say before we go? Nope.
Andrew,
Good. And out after him winning your first European trophy in 41
but
years.
thanks and good luck.
Okay.
Listen, as a Chelsea fan, I want them to keep Ange and do a Ten Hag all over again. By November, he'll be out.
Well, people, leave your comments. Let us know what you think. Who do you feel should be manager of the season? Who do you feel should have been young player of the season? And there are still some things that we've got. Let us know who you feel should have won or should win goal of the season. These are things we will be looking at probably in the next episode. But next episode is going to be absolutely brilliant. Obviously, we're going to have some of our regular guys back, and we're going to put together our team this season, which hasn't been announced yet. A couple of pundits have put theirs out. There's some I agree with, some I don't, but it'll be interesting to see what some of the guys on the panel will put together. So what we'll do is that we're all just going to come together, and we'll each position will have a player, and in a sense, as a group, as a collective, we will kind of like vote on who would get the spot. So it'll be interesting to see what you guys come up with. But guys, make sure you like, make sure you comment, and make sure you subscribe to Never Caught Offside. We are out. Peace. Okay, listen with Tottenham. Yes, European champions. We get it.
Does that mean